The Elegoo Neptune 4 Max. We are talking about it again, and I have some notes. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Frank, and we are here talking about the Elegoo Neptune 4 Max again. You guys might remember this from some previous videos. I never did a dedicated review on it, but it did show up in like best printers of 2024 or best large printers or blah, blah, blah. You might have seen it. And if you recall, I didn't have the best experience with it because there were some buggy firmware issues with Clipper, and I had the blob of death on the hot end, and I did not have a good experience out of box with this machine. However, Elegoo has gone and refined some things. I believe this has been over a year, almost 2, since I initially tested that first machine. Well, they sent me a new one, and today we're gonna talk about how this one's been performing out of box for me. And just off the rip, better than last time. So we're not gonna worry about what's in the bag quite yet, but instead, we're gonna talk about the machine, what it offers, the pros, the cons, and then we're gonna look at some test prints. Then at the end of the video, we're gonna talk about would I recommend this printer or are there better options on the market. So the Neptune 4 Max, currently sitting at $439.99 on Elegoo's website. That is as of the recording of this video. I don't wanna talk about tariffs and ups and downs. Right now, $439. Allegedly, it is down from $470, a sale. I don't know if that's like used car salesman tactics where you put a bigger price and then mark it down and put the price next to it. Anyway, it has a print volume of 420 by 420 by 480 millimeters, a pretty big build volume, especially for a bed slinger, and especially for a sub $500 bed slinger. Its max printing speed is 500 millimeters a second. That is its max speed in a perfect environment with the perfect model and the perfect settings. It at one time went 500 millimeters a second. That does not mean every single move and print is going to go at 500 millimeters a second. It doesn't work that way. To actually assist in the printing with that speed, there is this really big cooling fan duct that you can turn on and off during the print. I'm gonna be honest, I turned it off and left it off because if you're printing big, it's never really helped, and honestly, it's just really loud. It has really nice LED lights, which I actually do wish more printers had, and I do not know why Elegoo didn't use this LED bar in the Centauri Carbon, because the Centauri Carbon, it's the weakest light I've ever seen. Apparently they updated it though. Apparently the new models coming out have a better LED bar. Maybe it's this one. This one's great. I love the color. It has auto bed leveling. It goes through the whole sequence. It's running Clipper. However, there are leveling knobs on it. That is probably my first con of this printer. It does not completely touch this leveling. You will need to go and adjust some things. Mine was pretty good out of box. I ran one leveling sequence, adjusted this front right knob a little bit, and I haven't touched it since. It's been perfect, but I can imagine experiences will vary depending on the build and however you get your printer. Not the biggest fan of that, but again, sub $500 giant printer, there's gonna be some pros and cons. And the nozzle gets up to 300 Celsius, which is pretty hot. It does print PLAs and PETGs. It does say it can print ABSs, nylons, and ASAs, but you're not supposed to open air print those because there is some toxic off-gassing with that. So just keep that into mind. If you do try to run some of those filaments through it, make sure you research what gases are coming out of the filaments while you're printing. And unlike the 3 series, the 4 series, the Neptune 4 blah, blah, blah plus Max does support Wi-Fi wireless printing. You can hook this up to Wi-Fi. You get a LAN code, 192.168, whatever, and you can link it up to Elegoo Slicer, which has been significantly improved. It's just a rip of Bambu Studio and Orca. They all do it now, and it works. I did not like the old Elegoo Slicer, which was just a Cura clone. It didn't work well. The new Elegoo Slicer, it works just fine. You can remote print, remote monitor, see how the print's going. There's no camera on it, so you can't like watch it. Just get a cheap $20 Wi-Fi camera to do that. That's fine. But you can actually send prints wirelessly, upload, download, all of that. It's great. You don't need to use the USB stick anymore and walk back and forth. As for the actual construction, spool holder on the top, filament runout sensor, really easy to add and remove filament. There is a cool little tray for storage. You have your belt tensioner here and here. You have the cool little touchscreen depending on where it's gonna be. That's all fantastic, standard printer stuff. It's nice. And probably my favorite thing about these printers is that they're just not all black. They actually change the color. They're like this cobalt dark blue. I like it. And it's easy to build and set up. It takes you maybe 10 minutes out of box to get it all built and start running your first leveling sequence before you print. Now, that is the printer itself, and just to highlight some of the pros of the printer, it is large and it is cheap. If you're looking to just print big things as cheap as possible, there's not many better options on the market right now, especially for $470, and it's gonna print big. The thing I like to say about Elegoo is they do all the bells, none of the whistles. They added what they needed to add and didn't add any of the BS they didn't. It is a very bare bare bones minimum printer. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It has a touchscreen for ease of maintenance. It doesn't have all these extra features and things. The fanciest thing on this is probably the LED bar, which if it doesn't have a camera for remote monitoring, honestly, the LED bar is kind of pointless because you're gonna have a light in the room you're in anyway, though it does help you monitor the first layer a little bit better, but it is just a bare bones 3D printer. That's how they're able to cut costs on certain things, but again, with that, there are gonna be some cons. It is running Clipper, and honestly, it doesn't love running Clipper. I think they should have done a little bit more for the processing, for the processor and just the main board. There is a long boot up time, and sometimes Clipper does crash. I have had that happen on boot ups. If I cycle power too quick or I'm trying to get finicky with it, Clipper doesn't really like this printer sometimes. I've had it happen once since I got this new printer. I had it happen a lot other times on the older version, but it's been updated and refined since. So I've only had one weird Clipper reset on this since I got it, but it was one and done, and it was like the second or third time I actually powered it on. I already talked about the leveling knobs. I hate that. I don't think there's a point in that anymore. The bed, it should have a more solid bed and not be using a single belt system. It should be a dual belt system or a rail or some type of better gantry system that doesn't need adjustment, but hey, that's what you get for $470. Oh well. And it is an open air printer, which means there is no enclosure. It is going to heat soak the area around it. The bed will constantly be on trying to maintain temperature, and it's going to heat the room. You're gonna get fumes, you're gonna get off gases, and you're gonna get noise, especially with these fans running. They are loud. It is a loud 3D printer. There's no way around that, especially if you're trying to print fast. All right, let's get back to the desk here and get this all set up and no, stop it. No. Stop, stay down, stop. This is way too high for a desk. Who's this even for? Stop. Nope. I live here now. So it's a desk. It's a sitting desk, it's a standing desk, it's a sturdy desk. I don't think I have to explain to you what desks are used for. It's right here. It goes really, really low, or as you saw in that hilarious bit, it goes really, really high. Like, really, really, really high. Has a little screen over here with memory function, so you just press the button and it goes back to what you want. I've had this thing for about 9 months at this point, and I love it here in this little, nook of the studio. It fits my ultra widescreen monitor, my computer. You can set it up however you want. It can hold like 300 and something pounds. You guys saw me crawling and sitting on it, and it wasn't even flinching, and it still raises and lowers. If you're interested in this type of desk, definitely go check out FlexiSpot. They've been a really cool sponsor, and hopefully I can keep doing stuff with them in the future. So thank you, FlexiSpot, for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to, the other rest of the video. Yeah. Okay, so that's the printer, its construction, and so far my experience with it. Now let's talk about the prints I actually got off of it and any issues I ran into while I was getting those prints off of it. First off, after running that little leveling sequence, I threw the very atypical little Buddha at it. This is on every single Elegoo printer. There's probably a story behind it, maybe there's not, but this guy came out good. Now, it's not going to be the best, highest quality print because this is a very large printer, but for the size of that this printer is, this came out really nicely, and it laid down the first layer very nicely, and the print came out, so no complaints. Next up, I threw this cool little pot vase thing at it, and the texturing came out really nicely. Yeah, not bad. I printed this thing. I think it's some type of calibration screw holder. I don't know. It didn't print with supports, so I guess it's just a tolerance test for like overhangs. Sorry about that. It's gray, and it's having trouble focusing. Yeah, it just printed flat. I guess it came out nice. I don't really know what oh, it's a tool holder. I'm dumb. I don't know where it goes though. Benchy boat. It was some old gray filament I had, so it strung a little bit. Don't know why, but it printed actually pretty nicely. There we go. Look at that. And then this little nutcracker for testing threads and stuff, and it went in perfectly. So there's actually not a lot of wobble or wiggle in those tolerances, because obviously if they made this bigger, the screw would fit through it easily, but it actually has some really nice tolerances to it, and it works. Again, it was that really not great filament I used, and I apologize for that. So there is some stringing in there, but that's nothing that a heat gun or lighter couldn't fix. But yeah, this actually screws all the way down. So if you want to crack some nuts, Elegoo has you. So then I decided to actually throw my own prints at it, and I just love FlexiRexes. I don't know. This was a peach color filament, Anycubic? I don't know who sent this to me. I had some filament, and the Rexy came out really nice. I max sized it. This is the bed side. You can see the texturing from the textured PEI sheet. And then This was the top layer side that actually came out really, really nicely. I have no issues with this. Obviously, a print in place this big, the links are gonna have so much room that they're gonna be fine. I don't know why I didn't print a small Rexy on it. I probably should have done that, but this came out really good. I got a big printer to print big things, and it printed nicely. So the roll was almost out, so I sent another one to see how the pause and resume feature actually worked. So this was the rest of the peach, and then I swapped it over to a gold filament, and this came out. It swapped beautifully, actually. I can't feel where the jump was, where the pause was. Sometimes you can feel that little layer variant. I cannot tell or feel where that is. So that meant it picked up exactly where it needed to in terms of like a print resume. So I'm actually really happy with that. And it did the gold really nicely. I think that's pretty. It's pretty. It's pretty. And then the last print I sent, that was just a huge obnoxious print, is this giant Nova helmet. You guys remember me printing this on the other Neptune 3 and 4 and M4 Max or whatever, CRM4, and this is just a fun print. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but yeah, it came out really nicely. So being able to one-shot something this large and really didn't come out too bad. Printed it very fast. I'm actually not sure the speed, or is the stock speed on it, but yeah, not bad. Let's see, how do the supports break away? Ready? Ooh. Ooh. Little ASMR for you guys. Okay. Not bad. It printed. This was with the stock profiles and settings with the Elegoo slicer. I didn't really change anything. I did block out those inner supports, and even blocking out those inner supports, hopefully you guys can see it, it really didn't droop that much on the inside. It actually cleaned it up pretty nicely. And then the top, because you don't need those inner supports for domes, the top layering, not bad. It didn't droop at all, and it is nice and strong. So now let's talk about where things started to go a little downhill for me. The bag. Now I still have a print on the bed, but it is a textured PEI sheet on the other side. This is a smooth side that I covered in glue, and we'll talk about that later. But I was commissioned to print a part for somebody, and eventually I'll show you the finished part. But this is where I started to have some issues. Print number 1, print number 2, print number 3. This is Prussia's Prussiament Orange Filament Standard PLA, and I don't know if I had the settings wrong. I did adjust the temps on the bed, and I made sure everything was clean, but man, it did not like this PEI sheet. It failed 3 times, and I did check my initial first layers, but as it would go more and more, it would always break adhesion, and that really sucks. Especially after this one actually did get like about 20 something hours in, it just did not like sticking to it. And I hadn't had any problems until then. The Flexi Rexys, this is like Anycubic, and this was Sunlu, and I don't remember what this gray was, but yeah, I had a couple failed prints in a row. It just was not sticking to this bed. Now, eventually, I swapped the filament to another pack of gray, and it printed. It stuck fine. And trust me, I had re-leveled and cleaned and done all of that, but then right when I swapped back to this filament, this Sunlu gray, it printed. However, not only did it miss a layer and kind of mess up when it ran out of filament and print resumed, as it got near the top, it had a massive layer shift right here at the top due to the weight. This was over a whole roll of filament, a whole 1,000 grams, 1 kilogram of filament, and due to the weight, it actually made the belt on the y-axis jump and miss a few teeth. And this was at almost a 70-something hour print that near the home stretch, I could have lived with this layer skipping right here, but near the home stretch, it jumped and failed. And this is due to the weight of the print, because not only do you now have the bed moving back and forth and trying to print, you're now slowly adding more and more weight to it. There's inertia. The print wants to go forward and then back and then forward and then back, and you're building up the weight. And eventually that belt just couldn't keep up. And by the end of it, once this had finished, that front belt, that tensioner knob, especially when I reached down here and felt the belt, was a lot looser than when it started. So keeping an eye on the belts as they tension and wear down and get used, I mean, that sucks. This print's unusable, and it's over a roll of filament. Luckily, I was able to reprint it, slow everything down, but I had to already go and ship that part off to somebody. I'd ship 2 of these actually. So yeah, that wasn't great. I'm not the happiest about that. That is a really bad layer shift, and you can literally see exactly the direction it went in, right there. And this was my y-axis. As it was printing sideways just like that, and it was the y-axis belt that jumped. So yeah, that's a bummer. You want to be able to print big and reliably. Obviously, now if I was to reprint this, I'd make sure my belts were even better. I would slow things down. I would maybe add some more supports. but it'd be nice to have just done this reliably and not have this giant failed print now that is just a example of why it didn't work. And the last 2 prints I sent on this, one didn't go that well and one is still sitting here on the bed, and that was the back plate to my new Iron Man suit. I wanted to test the quality of this printer to actually do nice angles and shapes, and honestly, I'm pretty impressed with it, especially for the speed that it was printing at. It was coming out very nicely, but support failure, it fell over and it lost adhesion. You could see me literally walking in on the spaghetti mess that this was in this TikTok that I had uploaded about, you know, yelling at Mew, whatever. So that really sucked. I did post that on my Instagram story. Elegoo did see it, and they did email me, you know, giving me the normal advice. Hey, make sure things are level, make sure things are clean, make sure you have all your supports in the right place. And while I appreciate that, that's all very obvious stuff that I did do. It was just the fact that it was printing too fast for its own good. And this is not how I printed it. The build plate, I actually have it turned sideways so you can see it. Ugh. But I did have it printing along the Y-axis for stability like that, and it still just came loose from the textured PEI, which I hadn't had any problems with up until this point, but I did flip the bed over. This is now the smooth PEI side. And I absolutely covered it in glue, and I upped the bed temp to 65 and 70, and then it printed just fine. I actually I've been waiting to take this off for this video. Not bad. So a couple more supports to clean up, but being able to one-shot this is very, very convenient for the size. There is going to be some post-processing on it, and then I could slow things down. I'm sure I could tighten up some of the gantry knobs a little bit, but everything printed, and I would use this. I would use this for cosplay. If I didn't have much bigger, nicer, more expensive machines, obviously. Like if this was my only machine, this is still printing nicer than like my original CR10s and some of the older Elegoos. So I'm very impressed with this. It was a very quick print, but again, it will suffer from the problems that you would expect. As you get higher and higher up on the printer is gonna move faster. There's gonna be more inertia. There's gonna be more wobbling. So you're gonna get more pronounced layer lines as you get to the top of a print just because of the speed. This thing going back and forth, it's gonna wobble over time. So you're gonna have to slow some prints down if they're gonna be big, if you're trying to extract the best quality, but it did print. All right, so with all of that said and done, do I recommend this printer? Are there better options? Would I avoid it? Or, you know, does it get the job done? Well, currently where it sits at its price point and size, there's really only 2 viable competitors to it, and that would be the Ender 5 Max, which I do have another separate video coming out about that, and that is sitting at $800, $799 currently, and that is 400 cubed, so it is a little bit smaller than this, but it is a Core XY nice big framed printer that has proven pretty reliable, but it is twice the price of this thing. And then the other side of that is the Anycubic Cobra 3 Max, which is $550 right now, and that sits at 420 at 500? Haha, I got that right, 420, 500. So it is a little bit taller than this because this is only 480. However, I have not personally used that printer, and I have used the Anycubic Cobra 3, the smaller version. And I wasn't the biggest fan of the user interface and just the way it was printing, but again, if you want to look at the 3 Max, go and check out some videos on that. I have never tested it. I always like Anycubic for their resin machines, not necessarily their FDM printers, but it is almost $100 more than this, but it does give you a little bit more height. So those are like the 2 options or competitors that I would kind of consider when trying to get a big, large build volume printer like this. But with that said, I have had a much better experience than I did last time with this. I didn't have any weird clipper failures mid-print. I didn't have a giant nozzle blowout. Leveling it was so much easier. It has been a much more enjoyable experience. However, what I would equate this machine to is how 3D printing used to be 2+ years ago, before Bambu started coming out with the X1s and all of their machines and driving the hobby forward. There are failures. I did have failures, but these are less failures than I used to have on my old Crealities or my old Enders or even some of the old Elegoos. This is kind of what printing used to be like 2 or 3 years ago. You're gonna need to figure out that some filaments don't like certain temperatures. You might need to use glue. You might have some failures. You might have some layer skips. So it's like this printer is just 2 or 3 years behind of where we're expecting it to be, especially with some of the competitors on the market. I'm okay with this failure rate for the price point and the size, but that is gonna be a decision you guys need to make. Right now, I would recommend it, but definitely weigh your pros and cons of it. So if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns about anything you saw in the video, please leave some comments down below. If you have a 4 Max, let me know. Let me know in the comments how it's been going for you. Are you having the same failure rates as me? Have you been having the same issues with a brand new one that I had with my original one? Leave the comments. I read all of them and I will do my best to respond to as many as possible. And I do know Elegoo watches my videos and looks at the comments down below, so that is feedback for them too. And if they aren't, I will definitely screenshot them and send them to them because I want to know what your guys' experience with this machine is too. And if you like what you saw in the video, please consider subscribing to the channel. This way you stay up to date on all the printer reviews and build projects and everything I have coming out, including the new Iron Man series and just a lot of cool stuff I have in work. So yeah, hit the subscribe button. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you, Elegoo, for sending me this machine again so I could test it, and I've had a much better experience this time. And as always, to you guys, thank you so much for watching. You have a good day.